What makes soldiers do the things that they have to do in combat, whether it's in World War II or the First World War, the Civil War. I mean, in any period, this is just a fascinating puzzle of human behavior. In the Second World War, that's a really vital question for military systems, not because it's a fascinating puzzle of human behavior, but because it has very real-world implications. How are we going to get millions and millions of citizen soldiers who do not have a lifetime of preparation to face fire and get them into a position where they can endure the things they have to endure and do the things that they're going to have to do? The battlefield has become so lethal that the soldiers have to spread out, they're camouflaged, they're going to ground. And so there's an understanding that a lot of these behaviors are going to have to be autonomous. They're going to have to, soldiers are going to have to fight because on some level they want to fight, or they're at least willing to fight, rather than soldiers who can be compelled into the line. News maps, so a bi-weekly publication that on one side shows the progress of the American armies and their allies in this two-front war against fascism. And then on the flip side, there is, on each news map, useful information. One of the most interesting ones has on its reverse a lesson in digging foxholes. And there's some very specific details. It has to be a certain depth. It should follow a certain shape with diagrams and a sort of cross-section about the right and the wrong way to do it. But in one corner, the biggest text says foxholes, and it says dig or die. There are things that you can do to increase your chances of surviving, which is an incredibly powerful implicit message. And it's a really useful message for an American military system that does not have the power to compel people to do things as strongly as it would have had even 50 or 75 years previous. One of my favorite images from this period is a beautiful poster that would have appeared in engineering training. So engineers, one of the jobs that they do is go out and sweep for mines. And it's an arresting image in blue and white, and it shows a soldier who has picked up an enemy helmet, and there's an explosion, so he's been being knocked backwards, and two of his buddies are coming up. Anyone who's familiar with the basics of ground combat, which is the audience for this poster, would know immediately what's happened. The soldier is out trophy hunting. A lot of GIs in World War II, particularly in Europe, want to bring something back. And the Germans know this, and they understand it, and one of the ways that they take advantage of it is by deliberately leaving behind things to tempt GIs and then booby-trapping them. Putting an explosive charge or a prepped hand grenade under it. The text is the other piece, which has basic training counts. And then it points out across the bottom, he missed his basic in booby traps. Why did this happen? Because this guy didn't pay adequate attention to what he was being taught in basic training, where you are. So there's a really powerful explicit message there that I find fascinating. But there's a really interesting implicit message too. The explicit message says, this guy did something dumb, and that's what cost him his life. The corollary is the unspoken message to the viewer, which is, you don't have to do dumb things, and you don't have to die. One of the sources that I found in the last year that is absolutely fascinating is not a pamphlet or a poster, but a film that's about 8 minutes long and appears to be made at no small cost and effort to be shown to soldiers who are being prepared for infantry combat and are going to be shipped out. The heart of the movie is an attempt to disprove what must have been fairly common gossip among soldiers, that German equipment, that they were just better than the American versions.
When your target is out there 300 yards away, accuracy really counts. In this test, each weapon will fire 30 rounds. Next, the American heavy 30 on the tripod. And last, the German 42 on the tripod. And even with the heavy machine guns on tripod mounts, the results are the same. 16 hits for the German 42. And for our heavy 30, 24 hits. Only 6 misses. Accuracy. Again, yours always go where you aim them.
And then there's a really interesting graphic that contrasts an American heavy weapons unit with a German heavy weapons unit.
And another thing about that high rate of fire. It eats up ammunition. An additional 8 men are required to lug all that ammunition. For these 8 men, we can substitute another machine gun squad with another gun, which will deliver its bullets where we want them to go. That's the choice we've made.
And I suppose if you're a relatively unsophisticated new recruit, that might make a good deal of sense. You know, these guns eat up ammunition too fast. Wouldn't you rather have an entire extra gun rather than the higher performance German MG? That's not the kind of thing that would hold up very long in combat. The pamphlets, the posters, the training films kind of play to things that I think soldiers already want to believe. It gets much more difficult when these guys actually get into combat and they discover the reality and often the huge chasm between how ground combat has been presented to them and how it actually plays out in real life. And that's another fascinating story of the combat motivation piece.